Well, you can't put Nashwan down here.
He won't be making my top 5, let me put it like that.
I'm going to put him in 4.
Well, that's being a bit mean. One of the very best Coral-Eclipse races we've seen in the last 50 years, without any question.
I'm less certain about that, Johnny.
I'm a lot less certain about it too.
It's what Dami did afterwards. He won an Irish champion.
But we're
he
talking
won a King
about today.
George.
We're talking about today.
Welcome to the Coral-Eclipse Ultimate Rankings, where the Coral Racing Club members have chosen the top 10 renewals from the past 5 decades, and it's the job of myself, Simon Crisford and Johnny Murtagh to put that in some ranking. Simon Crisford, former journalist, Godolphin racing manager, now very successful trainer. Johnny Murtagh, also a very successful trainer, but also a former elite jockey on the international stage, winning big races all over the world. We have all the criteria that we think we need to put those 10 renewals in some sort of order that we feel merits the right place. So you ready to go?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Let's do it. It is time to have a look through the 10 chosen by the Coral Racing Club members. And we shall start with 2015 and Golden Horn. So Golden Horn in the red cap, the Oppenheimer colours. The grey Gatsby ends up being his closest opponent. Now, Frankie, I thought, had it relatively easy in here, Johnny. Tell me, what do you think about it?
Yeah, listen, very straightforward. Frankie makes the run, and Frankie Dettori in the front end is not a good, it's not a good position to be in if you're on any of the other jockeys. It was a good race.
Oh,
But,
you're
but
already...
he won't be making my top 5. Let me put it like that. He was a good winner on the day, got it easy in front, and as we said before, the Great Gatsby came to him well, but he was able to do what he wanted in front.
You're already determining the positioning here. It's not one that's singing for you, Golden Horn, but he was a magnificent racehorse, Simon, with quite an incredible record of progression.
He was indeed. Obviously, he won the Derby. He was a fantastic racehorse. But I agree with Johnny. I think Frankie has outridden all of the other jockeys in this race from the front, as we were talking earlier. I think the Great Gatsby was a very top-class horse, but he wasn't a champion. He won the French Derby, but he just was beneath the very best of his generation. And I think Golden Horn was a very good and deserving winner of this race, but he doesn't make my top 5 either.
Wow. You're already going away with deciding where Golden Horn fits in. Poor Golden Horn.
Now, sometimes after the Derby,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a lull. You're looking at the big picture. He's a little bit of a lull. He probably, I think his ability won him today, but he got better as the season went on. Yeah. And as I said, this was pretty easy for him.
Yeah, and he's a mile and a half horse. That was his trip, his real trip. So just at the 2-pole here at Sandown, he's being eyeballed by the Great Gatsby, but he keeps finding, as they do up the hill at Sandown. And he was a very worthy winner.
Quality of opposition. Talking about the Great Gatsby, he was a very good horse. He beat Australia in the Irish Champion Stakes. Yep. Weston Him back in third, though, small field. Those were the elements that maybe made me think, Golden Horn might not be, but he is in the mix. So what I'm going to suggest is when we are putting together this 10, so I will look after 4, 3, 2 and 1. Shall I keep Golden Horn, or will you like him?
Here.
Yeah,
stick him down here for the moment.
Down your end, Simon.
For the moment.
So you put him in 8. Next we go to 2012 and to another magnificent horse, and this is Nathaniel, trained by John Gosden back in the day and ridden by William Buick. And for me, the reason why I mentioned William Buick, I thought this was an outstanding ride, Johnny. I thought that was the reason why this horse won what was a very competitive race.
Listen, William Buick gave him a great ride, pretty straightforward, place to be in Sandown, sitting in the box seat, pacemaker there, making the running. He didn't have to do too much, Rishi. You know what I mean? Okay, it was a competitive race, but he came into this race. I think the ground was it on the soft side this day?
Yes,
decent.
Yeah,
it was.
Which suited him really well. But nice position, going along a nice pace. But again,
let's speak about some of the opposition, okay? Because that's important. Far.
Yes, in the white cap.
In the white cap. And also Cityscape, a very good miler, stepping up in distance, in the green cap of the Khaled Abdullah colours, and in the pink cap of the Khaled Abdullah colours, on the inside, 2 from the back, is Twice Over, who is again a Group 1 horse and good quality. Those would be the picks for me. What about the quality of the opposition, Simon?
Well, I don't think it was the best renewal of the Coral-Eclipse. I think that Far, who we had at Godolphin, was a fantastic horse. He won the Champion Stakes at Ascot, but you know, and he comes here to make his move to go next to Nathaniel. But I don't think this was the best Eclipse, and I think Nathaniel was a good horse, a very good horse. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But he has no right to be in the top 10.
Oh, that's brutal on poor Nathaniel.
And he was a 1.5 mile horse.
Yeah.
Dropping down
a trip. He made his stamina, play here, and that's what outstayed. Far came there looking like he was going to win.
Exactly.
But stamina kicked in here, especially up the hill at Sandown.
Yeah.
Buick was good on him.
Buick was brilliant on him.
No, he was good.
He was brilliant on him. I think he was brilliant on him.
He was good on him. You sit second, you kick on 2 down.
Yeah, because he's riding a 1.5 mile horse against horses that
well,
better turn.
And if anything, Far had too much to do.
I probably would have done, Johnny. I'm a very good rider. I rode at Cheltenham once. Did I tell you about that? Okay.
I think he belongs down here.
Again, I'll repeat. I'm looking after the top 4.
Okay.
So what we believe might be the top 4. So shall I pass this down?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank
Nathaniel, you've got 10. Okay, fine.
Right.
It's heavy on poor Nathaniel. Okay, we move to 2011. And So You Think, a horse who travelled over from down under. Now, Simon, he has got in front of him in the pink cap the Derby and Arc winner from the year before in Workforce.
Yeah, unbelievable. This horse posted amazing figures. I think he won the Prince of Wales, is that correct? When he won the Prince of Wales at Royal Ascot, he posted extraordinary figures. So he came here as favourite, and you would have been very surprised if he hadn't won. But there was the bounce factor to take into consideration. Very, very high class horse, but not a top 4.
Okay. Not only was Workforce in the race, Snow Fairy was in there as well. She finished back in 4th, but I believe she was coming back after a little bit of a layoff.
Yep.
So that perhaps puts a little bit of doubt on the quality.
I rode her.
Well, she should have won, Johnny.
I rode her.
She should have won, Johnny.
I rode her, and she was coming back. It was a front end. There was good pace. Workforce, again, Derby winner, stayed well. So You Think had that little bit of class. I don't think he was as good here as he was down under. I don't think he came with this big reputation of being the next coming. He never got there for me.
Never quite did it.
Never quite did it.
Very good horse.
He was very good horse. But listen, they're all very good horses.
Okay.
But we just have to put them in here.
Simon's taking all of these down his end. Let's not give away who we've chosen. I mean, Simon, you're not very good at poker, I don't think, I would say.
What?
Okay,
Don't know how to
maybe
play.
Simon would be a little bit more positive about this great grey, Dami, who won the race in 1998. Now, this was one of the best older horses, one of the best horses we've seen in the last 25, 30 years.
And certainly one of the top 3 horses His Highness Sheikh Mohammed has ever owned. Because what you see here is a remarkable race. The horse in front, Central Park, who finished 2nd in the Melbourne Cup, is our pacemaker. And you can see the rest of the field can't let him get away because he's very, very high class horse. Dami, who up until this point still hadn't found his real turn of foot, which we saw later on in the King George, Breeders' Cups, Irish Champions. That's when this race brought him forward again. My worry watching this race was the horse in the white cap at the back, Faithful Son. He was a gelding. Yes. And it would have been a disaster if he had won. And 2 out, he's cruising into the race. He's travelling so well into the race. But luckily, Dami had the class to kick in the side in the finish. And Dami improved again after this. So I would say this is one of the very best Coral-Eclipse races we've seen in the last 50 years, without any question.
I'm less certain about that, Johnny.
I'm a lot less certain. I'm a lot less certain about it too. Again, a good race. Proper pacemaker, Frankie came. I think Frankie was under a bit of pressure at this time. He was after picking the wrong one a couple of times, and John Reid was after getting on a couple of them, and he was feeling. Yeah, but I don't think he was feeling the love. So
he couldn't pick the wrong one in this race.
I know he couldn't.
Was different
but
class to Central Park and Faithful Son.
Listen, as you say, Faithful Stones.
Look at Faithful Son, how he travels into it, and he's coming here to win.
Yeah.
And I'm in the grandstands thinking, oh no, this will be a disaster.
But you're saying
why is it a disaster?
Because he's a gelding and Dami is a stallion prospect.
Exactly.
But you're saying this is one of the best in the last 50 years,
Definitely,
and then you're
no
knocking Faithful Stone. I don't.
No. I can't.
I can't have it.
It's what Dami did afterwards. He won an Irish Champion.
But we're
he
talking
won a King
about today.
George.
We're talking about today.
He won a Breeders' Cup.
His legacy is there.
He would be in in the top 3 horses that Godolphin stroke Dali have ever owned.
Okay.
After this one.
But after this.
No.
No, after this one. On this day. We're talking about on this day.
We're going to talk more about the quality of Daylami's, the horses that he beat.
Listen,
'cause I think that
he
would...
belongs up there.
Wow.
With
okay,
you.
okay.
You
Well, I'm
hang
going
on
to put
to
him
it.
in 4. I'm going to put him in 4.
Well, that's being a bit mean. Right.
And he might not stay there.
You might go up.
Here is a horse that was just one of the most mighty international travellers. 1997, Pil Sudsky. What a year he had in 97, by the way. But the story of the race wasn't simply Pil Sudsky winning it. I'm going to use a phrase that was used by a journalist who titled this race Bosra Shambles. Kieran Fallon on Bosra Sham in the green and white colours in 3rd. Johnny.
Yeah, listen, box seat. He's in the box seat. Beautiful position. Riding a horse with a great turn of foot. He'd probably following the right ones. Benny the Dip is in front.
The Derby winner?
Yeah. Pil Sudsky. Brilliant horse. Brilliant horse. But Canaan was brilliant on him as well. You know, this is one of the rides I would say, you know...
Textbook.
Yeah, textbook. He's in the perfect posse. You can see a lot of the winners here are sitting 2nd, 3rd. Fallon is following them there. He's following Pil Sudsky now. But unfortunately, the horse on the red hat, Michael
Susuru.
Hills, he's just keeping him in.
And interestingly, watch when they turn into the home straight. About 6 strides into the home straight, Kieran Fallon has a little glance over to his left, sees that Michael Hills and Mick Canaan are going to block his route out that way, and decides, I've got to go down on the rail. And Simon, that was a crucial and critical error, as it turned out.
Yes, it was. I mean, as
Keep an eye
Johnny's-
on Kieran Fallon's eyes here.
Yeah, as Johnny said earlier.
You'll just have a little peek over now, there.
It's very difficult if you're on that rail. There's nowhere for him to go, and he's trying to get down the inside, and he can't. And that's it. That's his run over.
Oh, no.
Now, at Sandown, going up that hill, once you lose that momentum, you can't get back into that rhythm. It takes a long time because you're going uphill, and the ones in front aren't stopping. So you see a very good winner here, Pil Sudsky, Benny the Dip Derby winner. I think it was a very, very good race. Personally, I don't think Pil Sudsky belongs in the top sort of 3 or 4 because I think he's a bit beneath that. But I think there were other better Coral-Eclipse winners. But on the day, he was great. I think Bosra Sham should have won. I think Bosra Sham was an unlucky loser.
There's a false rail there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a false rail. So you sometimes you do take, when you can't get out, you know, desperation sets in and you look in, but they're always going to drift in. They're always going to drift in. I'm a bit... He still had 2 furlongs to make up, but you just can't catch them in Sandown. You just cannot catch them in Sandown, and you cannot catch them when Canaan is there, and you have a horse as willing as Pil Sudsky. I think Pil Sudsky was a great international horse who would have been very tough to beat on this day, given the ride he had.
Johnny, just a quick question. Somebody told me the other day, one of our contemporaries, maybe a bit younger, that the hardest jockey he ever rode against was Mick Canaan. Would you agree with that?
The greatest.
The greatest. You never rode against Piggott then?
I rode against Pickett, but he was 59 when I rode against him, so he wasn't maybe in his prime. But
he was. Canaan was,
Okay.
you know, very tough to beat.
Pil Sudsky,
5.
5.
I
Okay.
think.
There we go.
Johnny agrees with me.
Oh, yeah.
Pil Sudsky, 5. I can see that, primarily because of the way the race was run. I think Bosra Sham was unlucky.
Okay.
Here's a horse who won a very, very good renewal of the Coral-Eclipse in 2003, Falrav. Now, he was, again, another top-class international horse. This was his first season, only season, with Luca Cumani, had previously been trained in Italy. But this is an unusual sight. This many horses, this number, lining up for the race. And some top, I think there were 6 Group 1 winners in behind Falrav here, Simon.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I tell you what I do know about Falrav is that Luca Cumani told me he was the best horse he ever trained. Now, he trained some world champions, Breeders' Cup winners, Classic winners, one of the greatest trainers of our generation. He rates this horse his very best.
Wow.
And for me, if he's saying that, that's good enough to make this horse a proper champion of the Coral-Eclipse Stakes. I think he was very high class. He went on to better things after this, actually. But what a brilliant horse. And I would rank him very high indeed. In fact, I'd put him just a notch above Pil Sudsky in my ratings.
Okay. Johnny, let's talk about some of the horses in behind. In fourth place at the moment in the Sheikh Hamdan colours, the blue and white, that's Nayef, who was an outstanding horse as well. Further back in the horse that's sweating in the white colours, that's Islington. You've got Grandera, Simon, who was a terrific horse in the royal blue of Godolphin.
Yeah.
Lots of quality in this race.
Yeah, he was given a brilliant ride. He sat 7th on the fence. Everton opened up. He came right through the field there. He didn't have to go. He went round one horse in the whole field. He was a good horse on this day. He was probably brilliant on this day to do it. But I think the run he got was a help. Like, he wasn't like, you can see the horses here on the outside. Nayef was a good horse. He was tough. He was hardy. He won some Group 1s, but
he wasn't the best.
Let's take nothing away from this. Let's take nothing away from this win. It was a brilliant win on the day. But he got the run of the race.
He did, you're right,
Johnny. He got the
Johnny.
run of the race.
And Nayef, I think, just bounced a bit following his Prince of Wales Stakes
Yep.
victory, which was really hard fought with Grandera. And I think he just showed the bounce factor there.
Yep.
But nevertheless, Falrav ended the year with a higher rating than Nayef.
Yeah.
And he was a better racehorse.
He was a wonderful racehorse, Falrav.
Yeah.
But that was a proper run race.
Yes.
There was a big spread in them.
Yep.
But I think the ride he got, sucking round the inside, round one horse, he saved so much ground.
Yep.
Okay. Sweet ride from Darragh Holland on Falrav.
Yeah.
Where are we going to place?
I think you put him in number 5.
You move.
And you
No,
moved
No, we're going to
Pil
leave
Six.
this as we
Six.
are. We put him in 6.
Really?
We're leaving it as we are.
Okay,
We're just
well, I
gonna...
hate to think what you're putting in 3 if you're putting him down there. But anyway, there we
you
go.
want to put him in 6, Johnny?
6.
Okay.
Okay, 6. The next horse we're going to look at is one of the most famous from the past 5 decades, and that is the Iron Horse, Giant's Causeway, who won the Coral-Eclipse in the year 2000. Good quality horses in opposition, Johnny. A strongly enough run race once the pacemaker eventually got to the front. Simon, what was happening with your pacemaker, who's right at the back here at the moment in the white cap?
Well, I suspect that he missed the break and never sort of partook in the race as he should have done. But
Until now, he takes off.
yes, but having a pacemaker against Giant's Causeway is not a good idea anyway, because the Iron Horse was simply amazing, and we're now serving a very good purpose for Giant's Causeway. He's using our pacemaker as his pacemaker. So tactically, we were poor that day.
Some of the horses in behind, Johnny, just to mention, in the striped cap down on the inside, Saki, who'd run a great race in the Derby. Fantastic Light, who was a wonderful horse for Godolphin in the Royal Blue on the outside. Shiva, who was a Group 1 winner for Henry Cecil, just in behind. And Calanese, a horse that you got to know very well later on that same year in the green colours of the Aga Khan.
It did a very good race. Simon said a good pace when he eventually got there. Fantastic Light. He was one of my favourites, I think. You know, that kind of a really, really top notcher. And Saki on the inside there. You know, I just beat him in the Derby, but the Iron Horse, he loved the fight. I thought Calanese was going to win that race when he came down the outside, but watch the way this fella responded. Watch the way he responded.
Quite often we talk about horses fighting, etc., Simon, and we kind of read into it. But when it came to Giant's Causeway, he did actually respond.
Yeah, he was a remarkable racehorse, and I think this race demonstrates, just how good a race the Coral-Eclipse is. Because apart from the third one there, Shiva, the top 5, the other 4, truly international top class horses. And, this must rank as one of the very best, because Calanese, we know what he did, but what about Fantastic Light? What a brilliant racehorse he was in the future. And let's not forget Saki, the following year when he won that Arc in such exemplary fashion. For me, this has got to rank as one of the very best Coral-Eclipses we've seen in the last 50 years. And what a horse, Giant's Causeway. I mean, he was just as tough as teak.
Well, both Giant's Causeway and Saki both came just a smidgen short in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's how good those horses were.
Yeah.
Fantastic Light won the Breeders' Cup turf, and the quality of the opposition in that race, brilliant. Calanese came to him and he found more. So you would agree that he's in the top 5 here? We're gonna
Definitely.
So we're going to place him. Should I place him in 3?
For the moment, I mean, I didn't have him that high up, but some of mine are sort of midfield at the moment.
There are
but
a
we can
couple
talk
that are
about
higher
it.
than I think
I've
they should be.
actually thinking more about Giant's Causeway. he could be deserving of being a top 3. He really could.
Okay.
And sometimes these ones with the turn of foot catch your eye better.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that go and do it. And how many Group 1s did he win that year? Was it
He won
five, 6?
Multiple.
He won the St James's Palace, and he won that. He won the Juddmonte.
Irish champion. So
he took it on the chin.
And and again, the opposition on the day was top class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right, next. My heart skips a beat when I say this name. 1986, one of the greatest horses we have ever seen, and that was Dancing Brave. In the pink cap, ridden by Greville Starkey, up against him, one of the most mighty racehorses of all time, the mare Triptych, the Iron Lady. We've just obviously talked about Giant's Causeway, the Iron Horse, and she sweeps past him at this point, Johnny.
Yeah, it's early to go here, you know what I mean? I think Greville is, he knows what he's got underneath him. It's early, he's coming out. I'd say Greville's under a bit of pressure after the Derby here, you know what I mean? He kind of made room for himself at the bottom of the straight, but look at him, quicken. Again, I'm
Hands
like you.
and heels.
I'm like you. I was only getting into racing. This one horse caught my imagination. Looking back on this again, like, look at the effortless up the hill in Sandown. 5 lengths winner. Hey, listen, he's high. He's high on my list. We're running out of numbers here.
Well, we are running out of space. For Simon, obviously, Triptych was a terrific racehorse. Behind her in the white cap, teleprompter, an Ollerton Million winner. Bold Arrangement, who had, of course, run in the Kentucky Derby.
Second in the Kentucky Derby. But, Dancing Brave, what a remarkable colt. He didn't sell particularly well at Keeneland, $250,000, had a parrot mouth. A lot of the top judges turned away from him.
Why don't they like
parrot mouth? Because they think the horse doesn't really eat that well. It's when the top jaw is overshot. So they're not great eaters. But what a racehorse. We haven't seen a racehorse like that for many, many years. And I agree with Johnny and yourself. He just puts a tingle up your spine when you see that turn of foot. Yeah. And fantastic.
I mean, extraordinary racehorse. I'm going to put him second. Yeah, he definitely is in the mix. Okay, here's another horse who I think would be close to being mentioned in a similar sort of vein. In 1989, Nashwan completed, to this point, he'd won the 2,000 guineas, he'd won the Derby, and he was about to win the Eclipse.
Just name the horses in it first. Just name the horses, Rishi. You know them all.
So the horses to consider. The horse in second is a horse called Opening Verse, who was supposed to be the pacemaker for Indian Skimmer, who's in the first colours of Sheikh Mohammed at the back of the field, the grey. Opening Verse would go on to win the Breeders' Cup Mile on the turf. Warning, who was the champion miler, the Typeform Horse of the Year. He was an outstanding horse in the pink cap. And of course, Indian Skimmer, who'd won the Champion Stakes the year before. Those were the key horses in the race. And Opening Verse he ended up going off well clear of everything. And Willie Carson and Nashwan had to work very hard to pick him up.
Again, when you name the horses in opposition, it's just unbelievable. It's an unbelievable race. Fast pace. The horse in front, as Simon said, you can't let those pacemakers go because they are top notchers themselves. And Willie turned in. The only thing about it is Willie knew he was going to stay well. Maybe the Cal Abdullah #1 horse, Warning, might not have stayed the trip, and Willie was going to make sure it was a test. But Indian Skimmer was one of my favourites again. A grey, Cotton Roader. It was one of those brilliant races, but you knew from halfway up the straight that Willie was coming. He was going to get there. Again, hands and heels, like unbelievable Derby winner, and to go on, that's what you want. Like, when you win the Derby, you're great, but you have to rock up in Sandown and do it all over again, and he did. He was a brilliant winner. Rishi, he's near the top of the list for me, but they're running out of spaces.
We are.
I mean, this horse, obviously unbelievable, but what I would say, I think this was a much, much tougher race for him than the Derby, is obvious. But I think it took a lot out of him. He was beating champions, and I think by the time he got to the King George, he wasn't quite the same. Yeah. And then that was it. He was done. But what a career! 2,000 guineas, Eclipse, Derby, King George, that sort of stuff. One of the all-time great Coral-Eclipses. So I agree. He's got to go in the top rank, and I think you've got to peg some of these back.
We will do that later.
Okay,
so
well,
for
there's
now,
no room at the top for him.
There's only one here.
Well, come on, we know that this one's going to be up there. The one you've
do
left behind.
we know that? We don't know. We still got one more to reveal.
Okay.
Shall I put Nashwan there for the minute?
No, don't put Nashwan.
We've got to leave them where they are.
Okay.
Later on, we will.
Well, you can't put Nashwan down here.
We have to put him at the
We
start.
have to put him there for them for now. For now.
Okay.
Simon.
It's a shocker.
So Nashwan,
It's a shocker.
Nashwan won the 2,000 guineas. He won the Derby. He won the Coral-Eclipse. This horse did it as well, and that is the mighty See the Stars in 2009. He, of course, cruised to victory in the 2,000 guineas. He cruised to victory in the Derby. And here, he was up against some pretty smart horses as well, Simon.
Absolutely. I mean, his performance this day was just brilliant, and it was another sort of fabulous ride by Mick Kinane. It really was. And the pace is honest. He's not getting sucked into chasing a really relentless gallop here.
3 pacemakers were used on this day in the race.
And what he's doing is just minding his horse at this stage to keep a lot of petrol for the finish up that steep hill. But, you know, he's coming back off the Derby. He had a hard race in the Derby. But the way he finishes up the hill is just a joy to watch. And I would say he's beaten a very high-class field. But for me, this is the legacy horse. You know, See the Stars, what a great stallion he's become. The whole of our thoroughbred industry is basically being not redefined yet, but he's one of the top stallions in the world. And
that's unquestionable.
Yeah, and that's why this horse, for me, has got to rank as number 1.
Okay, hold fire. We've still got some debate to come. Let me just tell you some of the horses in behind. In the royal blue, or the dark blue, it's Rip Van Winkle. The horse in the pink cap down the inside, twice over. The horse in the the light colours at the back, that's a dual Breeders' Cup turf winner in Conduit. Watch what happens here, though, Johnny. When See the Stars hits the front under Mick Kinane, he looks like he's just idling a bit, and then Rip Van Winkle comes to him and Conduit, and he's got more in the tank.
I was riding in Ballydoy this time. I was suspended this day. I really thought Rip Van Winkle would get him. I thought he'd get him. He was flying at home. And Jimmy followed him. We knew he pulled up in front and said, just delay your challenge, come with 1 run. But look at him.
He's found more here.
Like the greats, he finds more under pressure. And listen, Kinane was brilliant on him. You know, he went a little bit sooner than ideal today because the pace collapsed in front of him. But he knew when they came, there was more to give. And he is like, as Simon says, he's the whole package. I think he's going to have to go in number 1 at the moment.
Not for now. We're not saying that this is the end.
No. You're reluctantly putting him there.
No. It's the last spot. I've got nothing else up my sleeve. So we've got our 10 renewals of the Coral-Eclipse down in roughly what we think is the right order. There's already been some interesting debate. Surely there's more to come. Let us know whether you think we're right or wrong.